Hi, everyone. I'm Michael Lundgren, Chief Marketing Officer at Responsive. I'm absolutely thrilled to be here today with Stephanie Benavidez, Vice President of Sales Enablement and Proposal Management at EXL. EXL is a global AI and data company with 70,000 employees worldwide across 6 different continents. Today, we're going to hear from Stephanie about her journey from proposal writer to vice president, managing multiple go-to-market functions. We're also going to hear how she has positioned her team as highly strategic within EXL. And we're going to hear how she has built strategic response management into a company-wide capability. Welcome, Stephanie.
Thank you, Michael. I am absolutely thrilled to be here today.
Awesome. So, Stephanie, to go ahead and get us started, I thought you could go ahead and share some insights about your journey to leadership and then some highlights of your role today.
Absolutely. I think before I go forward, I'm going to go back a couple years. I won't date myself, but let's go back like 15 years. And I'll take you through sort of my journey and evolution to where I am today. So, as a proposal writer in several support functions within sales, I felt like I wanted to do more. I had started to feel kind of that ground on day effect where every day felt like the same day. And it was not, I would say, sparking joy for me at that point in my life. And I felt like I wanted to do more. I also felt like I was in a position of influence as sort of this inherent knowledge keeper of all the things. And I knew I could do something more with it more than respond to RFPs. I also, I would say at that point in my career, was working very closely with not only our growth and sales teams, but our account management function as well. And I realized that there was 2 real gaps in sort of our just sales motion. The first one was churn. So we had a revolving door of salespeople, which stinks. And then number 2, we were really over-promising and under-delivering, which really made my cohorts and friends over in account management and implementation like angry because we were selling a dream and they couldn't bring that dream to life. So we were also getting sort of churn or unhappy NPS scores when, people would become customers of ours. So I had this sort of harebrained idea at that point in my career to say, all right, I think we need some sort of a sales training function. Enablement wasn't really a word at that point in time, but we needed some sort of like productivity and training, onboarding and onboarding function for this organization. So I approached my chief sales officer with this idea, identified those gaps in our needs that we required as a team to really kind of scale as a startup. And he said, great, put together something. And if you can present it to the CEO and I next week, we'll do it. So I prepared, I cobbled together sort of my ideas and frameworks and presented it to them a week later. And I must have done a great enough job because they promoted me into that role and I was given sort of this autonomy to build out a true sales enablement university. And it wasn't just training, it was all the tools that helped scale teams as well. So that included other RP tools, other productivity tools to help streamline and augment and scale. And that sort of brings me to where I am today because I did that for several other organizations over the last 15 years and brought me to EXL about 2 years ago, where I now oversee 4 different go-to-market functions, including sales enablement, business development, strategic response management, and solutioning. So sort of all of my different puzzle pieces throughout my career have kind of culminated into one giant puzzle piece for EXL.
That's awesome. I mean, that's such an inspiring story. I remember you telling me about how, as a proposal writer, you had, I think it was a dozen or so binders of printed materials that you were pulling together. Not to date you at all, but I think many of us remember those days. And so, but to recognize that, hey, there had to be a better way to not only respond, but also to enable the broader team and then engaging with leadership in a strategic manner. I think and that resulting in a bigger role and an opportunity to drive an even bigger impact is really, really fantastic. And now to be running, 4 go-to-market functions at EXL, I mean, that is really incredible. Um,
Yeah.
you've done a very nice job positioning your team as highly strategic within EXL. I thought maybe you could share just a little bit about how you've gone about doing that.
Absolutely. I believe I take a page out of my own book in terms of how I look at the team and how they need to also be people of influence throughout the organization. Not only from just being a consultative seller and positioning and, bridging sort of this gap between product solutioning and other thought leaders that might be involved with RFPs, but they are truly that champion that sits alongside of our sellers, our growth team, to help bring the story together for, these different solutions that we're going to market with. So I take a big job of my sales enablement book as well as my proposal management book in terms of, how do we get all of this content and great ideas and feedback and build a winning proposal that is not only positioned for a story to help, XYZ client, but also to help with consistency in branding and consistency in the messaging that we're discussing, as well as making sure that we're strategic and ensuring that all those different people, sometimes up to 40 to 50 individuals that we're trying to bring together, all of these different pieces. And quite frankly, it would really be hard to manage that without a system like Responsive in place, because it makes it incredibly scalable. Honestly, I can't think of a better word, just scalable in terms of version control and ensuring that we're getting, as I mentioned, that brand, the consistency, persuasiveness in every single winning proposal.
So I love that. I love the way in which you and your teams are engaging strategically with the field organization and in a deep partnership, working together to put forth, branded, consistent, on message, compelling um, RFP responses, presentations, and so on. And so scalable is a great word too. And to the extent that we're able to help you scale, really love that. Ganesh talked about in his keynote that proposal teams are sitting on a gold mine, organizational knowledge. What are your thoughts about that?
Look, I think the longer that you're in an organization, the more institutional knowledge they're going to gain, but not everyone comes with that sort of edge, right? There are people that are joining organizations all the time, and it's really hard to try to pull those nuggets of information out of people's brains. So ensuring that your content management system and strategic response systems have sort of those nuggets of information at everyone's fingertips to ensure that we're spreading that wealth of knowledge is absolutely crucial. I think without a system in place and making people go back to the latest and greatest RFP to find the latest information is such an outdated, antiquated way of thinking.
Yeah. I mean, one of the ways that we've tended to think about it too is that proposal teams are at the center of the business, working with a number of subject matter experts within the organization to pull in the latest thinking. And
Right. As I
so,
mentioned, 40 to 50 sometimes with
right.
EXL, which could you imagine having to go tap those people every single time? I think that they'd be chasing after me with torches or something.
Right. They would get frustrated. And so,
Yeah.
so the fact that you're able to reach out to those subject matter experts, get their input, and you're motivated to do so because you're actually trying to win business. And
Right.
so then you've got that, current customer facing, really compelling information that you're able to bake into your knowledge base and then leverage for that particular opportunity. But then leverage it more broadly is really, really impactful, which actually, kind of brings me to the next question, which is, knowledge democratization, which at EXL is happening on multiple levels. It's happening from proposal teams to your sales organization, across business units and around the world. How have you been able to so effectively scale that knowledge democratization?
Excellent
That gold
question.
that gold mine of knowledge you're sitting on.
Yeah, excellent question. When I first joined EXL, the healthcare business unit was already using Responsive. It was in place for about a year. So the incumbent leader that is still with the organization was very strategic in putting something into place.
Mhm.
However, it was not integrated with any sort of tools in terms of like Salesforce or HubSpot or Teams or anything or Slack. And it was a standalone system platform that was great and effective, but not as effective as it could be. So I went about making sure that we were building upon not only just those integration aspects, but I was, let's say, able to churn out a lot more volume and higher quality proposals, and our win rates were increasing. And because of that, our executive committee and operating committee took note and said, "What's going on over there? Why is the healthcare team having such great success?" And I, in part said it was due to our relationship and partnership with Responsive, and it was
Mhm.
why we're able to be so successful in ensuring winning proposals and RFPs, but also just ensuring our consistency in our voice and the repeatable function of just making this a very well-oiled machine. So leadership said, "How do we get this for everyone else, Stephanie?" I said, "I will help you do that." So about 2 years ago, it was right when I started, really, is how we started to have the conversations to spread it to the rest of the organization and put it in everyone's at their fingertips to have the power of responsive.
That's fantastic. So I heard a few things. One, that you integrated into different systems, which helped give better access to that knowledge, that body of knowledge. And then secondly, fingertip access. And so, providing fingertip access to field personnel to the best of and latest information, making it readily available is super impactful. So imagine, and I'm sure you're experiencing this, you have sellers on a phone call and they're able to pull up, say responsive ask and get answers to questions immediately and answer them on the fly or respond to emails. And so that democratization of knowledge and making it broadly available from initially the subject matter experts, head and input, and making it broadly available to the organization can play a really key role in helping, grow faster, at lower risk and provide everyone a better experience. And so really love how you've made that a core focus, like really democratizing that knowledge and delivering more value into the organization beyond just the healthcare business, but more broadly within EXL. So that's really cool. Um, there are people and processes that have made this expansion possible. And there's also the tech, and you've mentioned responsive a bit, but just generally speaking, like how have you been leveraging AI to help accelerate impact?
Absolutely. I would say we are newer just using some of the AI functions, but true to EXL's own sort of mission, we are drinking our own champagne when it comes to infusing it into our own workflows. So everything from deal qualification to executive summaries, the trace score to help with really kind of building the right content and scoring that, as well as quality check and Agent Studio on top of apps are some of the ways that we are infusing AI into our workflows. And I would say Ask has been probably the biggest focus for us in 2025. And I think the others that I just mentioned will be a bigger focus for 2026 for us. In terms of Ask, I know that there was a lovely slide that I showed when we were live together showing sort of that um, the increase of our AI functionality versus sort of the manual tasks in terms of how we were using that function. And boy, I am just encouraged by seeing that AI function continue to grow. And I hope, and I mandated it to my team to say, this is no longer a system that runs off of manual test-driven things, really ensuring that all of these different functions are just second nature and infused in what we're doing is really sort of how I'm moving towards the rest of 2025 and beyond.
Yeah, really love the way in which you're leveraging AI, fairly extensively. And, I've appreciated what you've said in terms of that's enabling your team to actually be able to move faster in terms of responding to things, as well as the broader organization responding to things, which is also allowing you and the team to focus more strategically on engaging with customers and prospects. And so, just it's such a great case study, and it was terrific at our responsive summit on tour to be able to share that slide. Um, so time is flying by, so we're coming toward the end here. But any pro tips you would like to share with the proposal management audience on ways to drive even greater impact in their own orgs?
Absolutely. And I would say it's threefold. Definitely position your team as strategic. Focus on business outcomes and ensure that you're driving adoption wide and far with those teams. Change is hard. And at the root of sales enablement, changing behavior is key. It's not easy to put a new system in place for those who are considering putting a new system in place, but also putting new processes in place, right? There's new functions that you guys are always rolling out, and that also is a new process or change. And people are sometimes stuck in their ways, and ensuring that you're, always being agile and nimble is key. So I would say sort of like a subcategory of that is making sure that you are adopting AI, because not just say that AI and all that is going to replace humans. You're always going to have humans in the loop to help you augment your work. But I would say, I guess that was four things, Michael, not three. But those are my biggest takeaways.
Yeah, that makes sense, right? Position your team as strategic and engaging in a strategic manner, can make all the difference. And given the amount of revenue that most response teams touch in some way, proposal teams are incredibly strategic within the organizations. And then your comment about, talking about business outcomes, particularly with leaders, as you and I've discussed, leaders don't care so much about activity metrics. They really care about business outcomes. So what's the dollar value of deals that your team's helping close? What are the win rates? Things of that nature. And then I love the comment too around, amplifying impact, leveraging things like AI into platform, and democratizing that knowledge. So really wonderful insight. So thank you so much for joining us today. Your career journey truly has been inspiring. It's really exciting to see. And then also just appreciate the insights that you've shared more broadly in terms of driving change management within your own organization. And again, making strategic response management an organizational wide capability. So, Stephanie, thank you.
Thank you so much, Michael.